Hey, everybody. This is Dominic DeAngelo of WrestleZone.com. And this is episode 2, not 2 Guys My Dudes, but episode 2 of WCW Rewritten. If you did not catch the last episode, it might be beneficial for you to listen to the first episode where my degenerate brother Marcus here, he rewrites WCW. And he starts with WCW Starrcade 97. And so how we're doing this is each and every week, we'll be covering whether it's a Nitro or whether it's a pay-per-view. Marcus is going to rebook it, rewrite it, and kind of develop the story to how maybe us fans wanted to see it kind of evolve, so to speak, in the way it, in comparison to how it didn't. And there was a lot of missed opportunities that happened with WCW. A lot of good stuff, but also a lot of missed opportunities. So, Marcus, welcome back to your show.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. I think that our first episode was a success. I noticed I was doing a lot of ums and ers and uhs, so I'm going to try to avoid that this week to save all of our listeners' sanities. But yeah, generally speaking, I feel like things went really well. You touched on something, Dom, a little bit that I want to get across for sure, and that's that. Like, I'm not changing everything. Like, WCW did some things that were pretty good. At two specific examples that I can think of are the way they handled Goldberg in early 1998 and the way that they handled Chris Jericho in early 1998. So like those two things, I'm not going to mess with too much, but rest assured that like their trajectories are very much changed. It's like the butterfly effect, right? Butterfly lands on the water and the ripple scares a rhino and shit just goes haywire after that.
Then we have crazy celebrity as a president and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where we're at on this thing. So yeah, I mean, you might be hearing me say a few times when it comes to Jericho or Goldberg, like, hey, so it's, I'm not changing this, but rest assured, like by the end of 1998, they're on very different paths. And that's correct. I have things planned out all the way basically through 1998 already.
How about that? Now, I did have 2 questions for you that you did run down the rules last week. Fans or listeners can again go back to the first episode and take a look at those rules. They're just basic groundwork rules that you lay down. And but a couple I wanted to ask. We mentioned that if a talent is unsigned by WCW or by WWE, they're like a free agent basically. You have the option to use that talent if they're on the free agent market. Now, my question is, what happens when a contract runs out of a WCW talent? Are you going to have that option? Are you going to re-sign them? Say if they did get re-signed or if they didn't get what's your way of handling that?
So it's a good question. And basically how I'm looking at it is like, let's say that I'm just going to make an example, like a talent who is on the indies around this time, Tatanka. Let's say Tatanka. So let's say that I sign him. Basically, as far as this podcast is concerned, he's on the show until he's not. So like if I need him for storyline, then I'm going to keep him. Then I'll keep him around. I'm not going to be discussing people's contracts or lengths of contracts. Basically, if I don't want them on the show anymore, their contract has either storyline expired or I've released them from their contract.
Or they're just, creative's got nothing for you, brother.
Right. Sit home and collect your guaranteed money. So that's kind of where I'm at on things. So I'm not going to be really doing releasing of people. I will say though, like let's say a few years down the road, if we keep doing this, if I just don't have anything for Diamond Dallas Page, which isn't going to happen because I love DDP.
Yeah, so you don't release DDP. Jeez.
It never happened, but I'm just using him as an example. If like 2 or 3 years down the road, I'm like, I don't have anything for him. I'll just come on here and say like, hey, by the way, I released Diamond Dallas Page. He's a free agent, probably going to get picked up by WWF.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at on this. Yeah, good question, Dom. And by the way, if you guys have any questions as we go here, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. Questions, comments, concerns, ideas. By all means, I'm willing to listen to everything. I am pretty much planned out through 98, but if somebody throws me a really good idea, I might have to do some rewriting. So
we got some feedback. We got some feedback already via Twitter. You can hit Marcus on Twitter at Marcus DeAngelo, Marcus P DeAngelo. Or we have a specific handle for WCW Rewritten, and it's just at WCW Rewritten. So definitely give that a follow. And hey, Marcus, we never do this, but like if you're watching YouTube, be sure to like this video or to subscribe to the YouTube channel, the WrestleZone YouTube channel. It helps a lot. And you know what? I tell you what, this is the way you should do it too. If you're really invested in the show, or you really want to be intrigued, give us a review on iTunes and ask a question on iTunes about the show, or like give your feedback on it. And we'll be happy to read those on the air too. And I'm not going to tell you what to review us or rate us or anything like that. Feel free to do what you want, but put a question on iTunes and we'll take a look and we'll read those questions from there. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And just it's the WrestleZone podcast feed. Do that, everything. Okay. Now, Marcus, second question I had, this is a little more from a creative standpoint or production standpoint, I guess we can say. Obviously, some wrestlers had some really good wrestling themes in WCW, and some were very like on the cusp of being like DDP had, Nirvana. Raven had also Nirvana. Hogan had Hendrix. My question for you is, say if there's a sudden turn, somebody turns babyface, somebody turns heel, and they need a change for their theme. What's the music rights here? I mean, if you're gonna balance things out, you might be able to have a little extra spending cash here when you don't have, maybe a big name talent that you don't necessarily need anymore. So how are you gonna handle that stuff?
It's true, brother. I'll just put it this way. Like, let's say that I need to buy the rights to a song that I think is absolutely perfect for a character in WCW. I'm just gonna say that I did it.
Okay.
So like, otherwise, like, like let's say the DDP turns heel, he's got that iconic kind of almost like baby face-ish Nirvana theme.
It's like,
I'm gonna let his actions speak for themselves. There have been plenty of heels who have really cool entrance.
Oh
music.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, I'm just gonna let the storyline speak for itself. I'm not gonna just change his entry music. But like, no, dude, if I'm doing storyline, I'm like, man, this song would go perfect with that guy. Then I bought the rights to this song.
I've got a couple in mind for some folks, so that's why I wanted to throw that out.
Oh no! All right, well, by all means, you can pitch them to me off air, and if I like them, maybe I'll.
Oh, I'll pitch you on air. I don't give a shit.
Or on air, and I can deny you in front of our listeners.
And then I can hiss at you, or have Dusty here hiss at you.
I had no idea you had a cat there with you.
Right.
Hey, so by the way, that brings me to my last point. Then we can jump into the podcast. We both have cats, and I also, for those of you who don't listen to Two Dynamite Dudes, I have a 4-month-old daughter. You might be able to hear her crying right.
Yeah, I hear her now. Baby's crying.
So I'm gonna try my best to make sure that I do this while she's napping or something. But she literally just woke up from her nap. So I'm sorry if that's annoying to anybody. Maybe I'll try to record somewhere else. I don't
what's
know.
Annoying is you bringing it up. That's pretty annoying.
Is it?
Yeah, it's pretty annoying.
Hey Dom, you're annoying.
Hey,
I'm done with you right now. Let's go ahead and jump into WCW Monday Nitro from December 29th, 1997. So this is in the Nitro right after Starrcade 1997.
Okay, and in the name of, is it Marcus? Now help me here. I know I'm a writer, but is this the proper word to use? In the name of brevity, I'm going to read the card of what happened. Does that make sense in this notion?
I don't know if that applies here, but I enjoy what you're.
Doesn't it sound nice? We're going to use it because the dude used that in The Big Lebowski. So this is originally what happened on that particular card of WCW Monday Nitro, December 29th, 1997, the day after Starrcade 1997. Now, originally what happened here? Goldberg defeated Glacier. Chris Benoit defeated Hammer. Now, we've made mention that Chris Benoit is not on the show anymore. If you want to know why, go back to episode 1 and figure it out. Now, Ultimo Dragon defeated Eddie Guerrero to win the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. Diamond Dallas Page retained his United States Championship against Mortis. And then Booker T defeated Disco Inferno to win the WCW Television Championship. Kurt Hennig with Rick Rude defeated Chris Jericho. Kurt Hennig just lost his United States Championship to Dallas Page. Lex Luger defeated Buff Bagwell. And then Hogan fought Sting again to a no contest. So,
I mean, what a popcorn fart of a situation that is. First they have that terrible match at Starrcade 1997, and then it's just like, hey, I know what the fans want. Let's do it again, and then just have
then not give them a payoff.
Yeah, let's do it again because we screwed that up, and then let's screw this second try up too. So yeah, like I mentioned before, guys, keep this in mind. I'm trying to book this based on like talent that I know for sure were available on the given night. So I'm looking at that card beforehand. I'm like, okay, this guy was here, that guy was here. I can move this around. I can do that. So like, I am trying to be as accurate as I possibly can. But like I mentioned before, every once in a while, I'm gonna book a talent that was not present that night, and I'm just calling it like, hey, I called him. Private jet from Turner is coming to pick you up. We're giving you X amount of dollars for making this appearance, even though you weren't scheduled. So thanks for coming in.
There you go.
Okay.
Very well.
So let's go ahead and jump into my version of Monday Nitro from 12/29/1997. The program opens with stills of Sting being held up on the shoulders of all the WCW wrestlers, holding the big gold belt as confetti falls around him. Schiavone is in his element here, putting over the fact that Sting is the new champion of WCW, while the NWO batted 0 at Starrcade the night before. And speaking of Starrcade, he says, how we now welcome a man who contributed largely to the sound defeat of the NWO last night by wiping the smug look off Bischoff's face, the living legend Larry Zbyszko. Schiavone and Tenay give a standing O as Larry enters here. I always used to love when Larry Zbyszko would do his stupid thing, like where he'd come out and he'd do like the address the crowd.
Well, you should do that regularly on the podcast. You did it on.
Maybe that's how I'm gonna do like
be the fucking ass.
Yeah, I'm here, guys. Yeah, I'm here. Bruno is the original living legend. Larry was the next one, so I'll be the number 3 living legend.
Okay. Hey,
we just lost listeners. All right, so Larry does his customary pandering to the crowd before putting on his headset. Once settled, he announces that he was more than happy to put Bischoff in his place, and he's anxious to do the same to Scott Hall at Sold Out on January 24th. All right, so Schiavone poses a question that's on everybody's lips. What does all this mean for the NWO? He knows Hogan is scheduled to appear tonight, so maybe some answers are in store. Tony throws to Pinzer for the announcement of the first bout. All right, so this is a match that did take place. I've got Goldberg versus Glacier. So this match was the actual opener for the event, and I gotta say it's a pretty good way to jumpstart a crowd when you've got Goldberg coming out there. Glacier's got his fancy entrance. Tenay actually makes a point here of mentioning that Glacier's only been defeated twice to this point. So like this is kind of a nice feather in the cap for Goldberg. So as far as I'm concerned, Glacier at this point was pretty much damaged goods. They tried, they spent a lot of money and it did not work. So why not use him to help Bill climb the mountain a little bit? So Glacier gets some kicks in early on Goldberg, but the man turns things around quickly before hitting a spear and a jackhammer for the W. So yeah, it's going to be a nice kind of a quick match, which is what you want to do with Goldberg at this stage. He was a little too green to go much longer than a few minutes. I think that this was actually the first event, by the way, where Goldberg looked at the camera and said, who's next? That's what I want to know.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm going to be keeping that little gem in there, of course. Like I said before, it's really hard to change much when it comes to Goldberg's 1998 trajectory. But that being said, around mid-1998, I'm changing things a lot, and I think it's going to be really cool. I had a really interesting idea. I'm like, I could do this. WCW would have been able to do this technically. So I love the idea, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear about it. All right, so next, did you have something?
No, I just said rock on. Sounds good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So next, Schiavone throws to a developing scene in the back where we see Hogan, Bischoff, Savage, Marcus, Buff Bagwell, and Scott Norton all coming out of a limo. The mood is somber as Hogan is yelling at Bischoff, "Where are they, Easy? I swear to God, dude, if they don't show up here soon, they're out of the group like all the rest. I need people who I can depend on, brother. I need people who are in it for life. If I'm going to get my belt back, dude." I mean, it sounds like Hogan, does it not?
I'm going to get my belt back, Jack.
I almost threw in Jack, by the way, because I was like, it does rhyme. It feels like a Hulk Hogan thing, but I was like, not doing it.
You got to be serious at this moment in time. It's Matt.
As silly as Hogan is in general, like this is a serious moment. You know, there's some trouble. Right. All right, so the camera returns to Schiavone, Tenay, and Larry, and Tony speculates on what all that could have meant before we bring our attention back to the ring. So up next, we've got Dean Malenko, and he's taking on Mortis in singles competition. I mean, I think that we can all speculate on what an incredible match this would have been, right? Because Mortis was low key, Chris Kanyon was low
Well,
key.
let me note
On the
here
roster.
in that card on this. I don't know how accurate this is, but it says James Vanderberg, or is that Chris Canyon's real name?
No, Vandenberg is.
That's James Mitchell.
I believe that's a Sinister Minister.
That's the Sinister Minister.
He was his manager. Yeah.
Well, oh, maybe that means that he was with. That was his man. Okay, with.
Yes.
I'm sorry. It says with James. Okay.
Yeah.
I just misread
that. Mortis was with James Vandenberg.
I misread that. Yeah. Okay. It was in parentheses, so I was like, why? I was like, I didn't know somebody else played Mortis for a bit.
You just settled the hell down over there, Dom.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, I we can definitely see this one being a good match. Both these guys are at the top of their game. So I'm going to say that this probably would have been one of the best matches on the card if they had booked it. So Malenko gets the win here with a Texas Cloverleaf. But what's really exciting is what happens after the match. When Dean exits the ring, Vandenberg comes in to pick up Mortis, but Mortis pushes him away. When Vandenberg tries to approach again, Mortis lays him out before heading for the curtain. The camera follows him out as the announcers question his motives. Just before he goes through the curtain, he removes his mask and drops it at the top of the ramp with his back to the camera so nobody can see his face. The camera zooms in on the mask and Tony throws to a commercial. So I've got written here, this feels like a good time to introduce Chris Kanyon to me. If you watch his ring work at the time, it's really hard to argue that he's not one of the best in the world. And he's also got like a really good look. He's got really good size, and he moves so well for a guy his size that it's like, to me, I see money.
Let me say too, like when he kind of followed along with the flock, and then he was another nemesis of the flock. I thought that was one of the coolest gimmicks going at that time too.
And like he looks like he fits with the flock, does he not?
Yes, he does.
Also, by the way, at this time, Wrath was legitimately injured by a car crash. They had the Brian Pillman benefit show on 12/6, and according to the Observer, he was in a car accident on the way back from that. This just kind of feels like the perfect time to break up that tag team of Wrath and Mortis and let them go their separate ways and get a fresh start.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm intrigued.
All right. So we return to find Mean Gene in the ring, and Gene is proud to invite Bret the Hitman Hart to join him in the ring. Bret makes his way down to a huge pop and tells Gene that he was glad that he had a part in possibly ending the NWO. He says he just came from a company that supported selfish cowards, and he doesn't want more of the same with the likes of the NWO and WCW. I feel like a little nods to like the Click here. I want to do it every once in a while because we all know that Bret remained pretty bitter after the WWF breakup. So I'm like, if he had it his way, I bet he would be mentioning it every once in a while.
You got to blur the lines. You have to blur the lines. I think it just adds intrigue to it. And like, if it's there, why the hell not?
Absolutely. So Bret mentions, while he's on the topic of WCW, that he's anxious to prove himself in a new company. He knows that he's got a reputation as the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be, and that reputation precedes him. But he doesn't want the world title opportunities until he's earned them by starting at the bottom of WCW and working his way up. Just then, Ric Flair's music hits, and he makes his way down to the ring. The Nature Boy.
Woo!
Rick comes in and he tells Bret that he won't have to start at the bottom if he keeps calling himself the best. Rick says that if Bret can't pay him the respect he deserves by acknowledging the Nature Boy is the best, then Bret won't have to start at the bottom. He'll have to fight the man.
Ooh, oh man.
Bret tells Rick that he respects him, but there's only one excellence of execution, and the two get into a nose-to-nose argument while Gene throws back to Shivani. So here's the thing: that happened. Not exactly in that way, but basically, in a nutshell, Bret came out to the ring with Mean Gene. He was calling himself the best, and then I believe it was later on the program, Gene had an interview with Flair, and Flair took umbrance with the fact that Bret Hart is calling himself the best. So the reason I'm keeping this is that I loved this feud, and I thought it was kind of the perfect way for Bret Hart to start in WCW. It just makes sense that Flair would challenge a newcomer, especially if he has the balls to call himself the best. And it's just a good way to kick off his WCW run. I should also mention that Bret didn't wrestle at Starrcade because he legitimately injured his hand when he punched McMahon at the Montreal Screwjob.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I'm holding him out of action until Sold Out 98, which is what I believe actually happened. I think his first match in WCW was at Sold Out 98, so I'm holding him out of action. But I will continue to build the angle for this feud over the next couple weeks, just as WCW actually did. If I remember right, they did this for a few weeks where like Flair kept coming out and he kept trying to get Bret to say, hey, look, you're the best. Like that's what he wanted him to say, but Bret just wouldn't do it.
Wouldn't do it. Wouldn't happen.
So,
Wouldn't happen.
So
now, hey, let me make this pitch too. So,
yeah.
And this can be the good interactive way. We had touched upon it already, but like maybe this can get a good way to get some of the listeners interacted on the social media. And I just talked about theme music. Bret Hart's WCW theme was not very
sucked.
So maybe if you guys think of something, send us a message on Twitter, tweet at us, do something. What's a good 90s song for Bret Hart to come out to? And
I agree. I think that's a great idea, Dominic, because Bret Hart, he was a big name, and I think that WCW would have been willing, and certainly my version is willing, to spend a little extra money to get him rights to a good song.
Good tune. So,
yep. So
you guys got some, yeah.
Dominic and I will both think about it, but if somebody on Twitter comes up with a good idea, please send it to us. We'll shout you out on the podcast. And
we'll shout you. Yeah, anybody suggestions we hear, if we weigh them out and we'll listen to them and we decide to pick one, we'll give you the props on here.
We'll put you over huge, brother.
Put you over huge, man. And then, hey, you're the one that can be credited for coming up with Bret Hart's new theme. So there you go.
How about that? All right, so up next, we see a brief segment backstage where Eddie Guerrero is arguing with J.J. Dillon. Eddie is pleading his case that he shouldn't have to defend his cruiserweight title again tonight because he just defended himself the night before at Starrcade. J.J. tells him that here in WCW, the champions are expected to defend their belts at a moment's notice if needed, and Eddie better get moving because he's on next. Eddie's awesome WCW music hits, and that handheld camera follows him to the curtain as he complains and sulks. So I'm doing the match. It's Eddie Guerrero versus the Ultimo Dragon. So after Eddie's situated in the ring, the Dragon makes his way down. Eddie's the aggressor early, but he keeps looking toward the back curtain with just like disdain, and he's like frustrated with WCW J.J. Dillon in the office. At one point, Eddie's got the advantage and he's picking up Dragon, but he just keeps looking to the back with like this disgusted look on his face. And Dragon takes advantage of the opportunity and mounts his comeback. Ultimo soon catches Eddie in the Dragon Sleeper, and Eddie is forced to submit. Ultimo Dragon is the new cruiserweight champion.
All right.
Let me say, Eddie Guerrero is livid. He freaks out in the ring. As he's leaving the ring, he's yelling at the crowd. He's sneering at the camera. He's like taking off his tape and like whipping it down on the ground. He is pissed off. So I wrote here when I went back and read about this event, it felt a bit odd to me that they forced Eddie to defend his title like right after he just defended it. But then it occurred to me that I could actually turn that into a storyline. And I was like, why would they do that to Eddie? Like, that's sort of not fair. And it feels like it's something that a heel like Eddie Guerrero would take a huge issue with.
Huge umbrage. And you know what? That makes sense too. Like as somebody, when you want to build a good heel, you almost want there to be a good reason. You almost want to empathize or sympathize with that heel, and then kind of blow it up out of proportion or make it, all about them. And then it even gives you more reason to dislike them. So
no doubt about it. And by the way, next week is when it starts to really become interesting. So everybody stay tuned on that. Hang on, I got to stop my cat.
I know Dusty was being a real ragamuffin earlier here. I don't know what he's doing now, but
these cats, dumb.
Jeez Louise. Named after, Luna Vachon was never in WCW, but Dusty.
Yeah, she was.
Was she?
I believe she was. Yeah.
The short cup of coffee, was it?
I don't recall the details, but
was she in there during the 2000s? Actually, now that I think about it, did she?
I think she was. I think it was the 2000s. Yes.
I think she was there. Yeah, you're right. All right. Well, hey, carry on.
Hey, fair enough. All right. So after the break, we hear that we hear that NWO music. And we see Hogan, Bischoff, Savage, Bagwell, and Norton come through the curtain. Hogan is not doing his usual strutting around and mugging to the camera. Everybody's pissed off and somber. When they get to the ring, Bischoff grabs the mic and holds it for Hogan. Bischoff has a shiner from getting punched by Scott Hall the night before.
Yes.
What you see?
True development. A true new development.
A true development. But hold on to your butts, folks. What you see here, dude, Hogan says, is all that remains of the NWO. We need to trim the fat with some of the brothers who couldn't get the job done last night. And after that wuss Sting cheated me out of my world heavyweight title, some of the other brothers show their true colors. Where was Big Kev? He called me the morning of the match to tell me that he had my back, but then he no-shows and I don't hear a peep. Where was Conan? Always a faithful soldier, but last night he bailed on me and the rest of his brothers. Don't even get me started on Six, brother. I haven't seen him in weeks. And I lost my place. And worst of all, what's the problem, Scott Hall? You bail on Eazy-E last night, and then you have the nerve to put your hands on him. If the four of you still want to be part of the NWO family, you got some explaining to do, dude.
Ooh, man.
Tony Schiavone directs our attention to the entryway where Scott Hall has emerged with no music. Standing behind him in street gear are Kurt Hennig and Rick Rude, both looking as angry as Scott. Hall has the mic in his hand. Hey, yo, he starts. You want to talk about having nerve? How about having the nerve to kick the two men standing behind me out of a group that I started with Kevin Nash? Kurt Hennig taught me everything I know about the business when I started out in Minnesota, and Rick Rude took Big Kev under his wing when Kev's career started in this garbage company. Speaking of my big buddy Kevin Nash, him and Conan had personal business to attend to last night, and you'd know that if you cared about anybody but yourself. He's not playing around.
Scott is throwing toothpicks.
He said at some point, we lost sight of the true goal with the NWO. When it started, it was about taking over WCW and getting rid of the old guys that held us back. But you changed the focus to one goal, making sure that you always got your hands on the big gold belt. That's right, Hogan says, because when you hold the most important title in the world, you control the wrestling business, which is why tonight I'm taking advantage of the rematch clause in my contract and forcing Sting to defend that belt tonight here on Nitro. Scott Hall interrupts. Maybe you forgot, brother, but there's only one number one contender. He's 6'7", more handsome than 10 movie stars, and you're looking right at him. Hall and Hogan argue before J.J. Dillon comes from the back with a mic in hand. Technically, he starts, both of you are correct. You each have a legitimate claim for a shot at the belt. That's why tonight, in the main event, we're going to have a triple threat match between you, Hollywood Hogan, you, Scott Hall, and our champion, Sting. Hall and Hogan protest, but JJ pays no attention and walks to the back. The camera finds Sting looking down from the rafters at his two opponents as Schiavone and crew hype the main event and the huge changes in the NWO.
Is the Vulture with Sting?
The Vulture is holding the belt, Dominic, up in the rafters. For those of you who are just listening to the audio, he is not. I'm smiling right now. Of course, the Vulture is not holding his belt.
Is the child narrating Sting's thoughts?
But yeah, I always thought it was weird that the next night they redid the match, but then I was like, what about Scott Hall? Wasn't he the number one contender? So I'm like, well, let's have them both do it. They both do have a legitimate claim because there is a rematch clause, is there not?
Yeah, right. So hey, there you go. I like it. So what a setup. Yeah, all mentioned, but note back to history between Hall and Hennig. Then you got Rick Rude and Kevin Nash. I like it. Yeah,
Nash in shoot interviews always says that he was a Rude boy when he was in WCW, which I think means that he traveled with Rude, and Rude kind of passed a lot of knowledge on to him. So I'm like, it kind of makes sense for Rude and to be aligned with Nash and Hennig to be aligned with Hall. So stay tuned on that.
Attention to detail.
That's it. All right. Did I say this already? Hall and Hogan protest, but JJ pays no attention. I said that?
Yep.
Okay. Up next, we have DDP defending his newly won U.S. title against Chris Jericho. The announcers hype this match as the biggest opportunity of Jericho's young career and say it's the sort of match that could launch him if he gets an upset victory. DDP being a gracious performer, he's going to let Jericho show his stuff in this match. But when Jericho attempts to do a top rope crossbody, DDP catches him with the diamond cutter and gets the pinfall. After the match, Jericho has a huge fit and rips the suit off David Pinzer, just like he actually did. And the announcers denounce his lack of sportsmanship. As I mentioned, like as with Goldberg, it's really hard to change a lot about Jericho's early 1998 run. I think that it was kind of like masterfully done as far as how they made him like this whiny, bratty heel.
Yeah.
And so I feel like they really unlocked his true potential by letting him show his personality a little bit. So that being said, big things are coming his way this year. Like I said with Goldberg, like about around the midpoint of the year, things are going to change a lot. Things are already changing now, and they're going to continue to change big time. But you're going to see even greater change by the midpoint of the year.
Heck yeah, man. I dig it.
All right, so we go backstage now, and we find Mean Gene chasing down Eddie Guerrero, who's in street gear and headed toward the exit with his bag. Gene asks him about the match, and Guerrero snaps at him. I'm tired of the way WCW treats me and my people. Us Latinos are always put in losing positions, and I'm fed up, Gene. It's time somebody did something about it, and you can bet that that somebody is me. Eddie shoves past Gene, who throws to Tony. So, like I said, we're going to get a little bit more of a clear picture next week as to what's going on here.
Well, I love Eddie.
Dude, we have some fun times coming up with Eddie.
Awesome.
All right, it's time for the main event. And Tony is saying that if this is all, he's wondering if this is all a ruse by the NWO. And he's saying that it would basically be a 2-on-1 match with Hall and Hogan versus Sting, if that's the case. Bobby Heenan, who came out at the second hour, says that he saw real hatred in Hall's face, and he expects this match to be a legit three-way dance for the prize of prizes. Michael Buffer does his thing, and we're rolling. Scott Hall comes to the ring with no music, followed by Hogan, who is visibly angry as he makes his way down the ramp. Sting repels from the ceiling, and the match is underway.
Is anybody accompanying them?
Nope, so they're all on their own.
Okay.
At first, Hall and Hogan do both team up on Sting, and the announcers fear that they've been tricked. Soon, though, Hogan nudges Hall out of the way to get at Sting, and Hall responds by giving Hogan a stiff shove, which elicits a pretty big pop from the crowd, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Oh, yes. I'd be popping if I was a kid.
Absolutely. So Hogan gets in Hall's face, and it soon erupts into a full-blown brawl between the two, exchanging blows. Hogan gains the advantage, though, after he does an eye rake to Hall and tees off until Hall flatbacks for him. As Hall is trying to regain his feet, Hogan yells down at him, pointing his finger at Scott accusingly. Sting comes up behind Hogan, yanks on his skullet, and nails him with the Scorpion Death Drop. Sting makes the cover, but Hall just barely breaks it up. Hall goes off on Sting as Hogan is laid out, nailing him with vicious punches before hitting him with a choke slam, after which, of course, Hall does his classic mock of the Giant, which was one of my favorite things as a kid. It always cracked me up. Scott signals for the outsider's edge, and it looks like he might have Sting, as Hogan he's barely stirred. Hall gets him set up, but Larry Zbyszko has snuck down to ringside, and he grabs Hall's boot. This distracts Hall for long enough for Sting to give him a back body drop. Hogan has managed to get to his feet, but he's leaning in a corner trying to catch his breath, and Sting abandons Hall and runs over and gives Hogan a hellacious Stinger splash. Hogan drops to the mat and rolls out of the ring to the floor. Hall feeds Sting's comeback and soon gets a Stinger splash himself. The crowd noise is starting to swell as they see where this thing is going. Hall has stumbled out of the corner and landed perfectly in the center of the ring. Sting locks him in the Scorpion Deathlock. Hogan is trying to get back into the ring to break it up, but it's too late. Hall submits to a massive pop. Shivani's going nuts, and Nitro goes off the air.
Man.
And that is that.
We're out of time.
Well, the tape machines are rolling. So yeah, that's it for this week in Nitro. Some major shakeups in the NWO. I felt like after Starrcade 1997, it was time to change things. And I don't necessarily mean branching NWO into two separate pieces. So let's see where it goes. It's gonna be a fun year.
Fun year coming up, and that's episode of Nitro, the first one in the books. So
first one in the books, guys. I'm excited to get to next week. It'll be the first Nitro of 1998, and we got big things happening, brother.
Man, yeah. Any New Year's plans for this? Have you got? Is Dick Clark going to make an appearance? We're going to have some, I don't know. Is Smash Mouth going to show up? What's happening?
I don't know if Smash Mouth was a thing. Probably like Third Eye Blind.
Yeah. We're not gonna get the Kiss Demon. We're gonna get the Third Eye Blind monster or something.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has to worry about seeing the Kiss Demon making an appearance ever in my version of WCW.
Oh, he's not gonna be there.
I'm gonna put the strap on him. But that's gonna be it, guys. Obviously, I'm sure we all remember that there were a lot of big name signings in WCW in 1998, and we're gonna make a couple more too in the near future. So, stay tuned. I'm a slow build kind of a guy when it comes to angles. So I like the idea of guys having a feud the last 2 months, 3 months in some cases. So we'll see how that goes. Like I said, I've got a pretty good plan outlined. I'm open to suggestions. So by all means, reach out on Twitter, and I'm happy to hear what anybody has to say.
Yeah, give your info again.
Oh, yeah. So you can reach me on Twitter at Marcus P. DeAngelo. You can follow this podcast at WCW Rewritten. And you can follow my slapdick brother of WrestleZone.com, Dominic DeAngelo. How, Dominic?
At Dominic DeAngelo. And you can follow WrestleZone on Twitter at WrestleZone.com. And hey, this is not the only podcast that we do. We do 2. How many, Marcus? 2? 2. Dynamite Dudes with Attitude, where we recap AEW Dynamite on a weekly basis. And we just finished the episode with Dan St. Germain as our special guest.
The King of Sad Style, well-known comedian, Dan St. Germain.
That's right. Part of Wrestle Rose coming up, the new podcast on ad-free shows. And he has him, Scott Chaplin, and the man behind WWE Creative-ish. That's very popular, and former writer for WWE. So they have a really good show going there. They're going to roast a talent each and every week. It's going to be fun to hear. So, but listen to our recap that we did with him. We have an interview with Chris Jericho that is up. I just finished interviewing Savio Vega earlier this week. I just capped off an interview too with Dominic Guarini, the Bone Collector of MLW. And we just got some more stuff going on down the pipeline coming. So tune into that. Always with the WrestleZone wrap up with Kev Kellum. We always do an Impact thing. Lots of good content on WrestleZone podcast. So make sure you follow that feed. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe to the WrestleZone YouTube for all this content and more. And it's all free. It's all free. Nothing. We're not behind a paywall or nothing like that. This is just straight up content that you can tune in while you're going to bed, while you're doing work, anything like that. And this WCW Rewritten here is a perfect podcast for that. So,
no doubt. WrestleZone we've got our own little podcast network, it seems, and it's things are going well. We're releasing a lot of content all the time, and this is an exciting time, man.
Absolutely, this is fun. This is fun. I'm invested. I'm a big Scott Hall guy, so seeing him already be positioned in the right fashion is very exciting to see. So.
Yeah, man. I say the same thing a lot on this, and that's just that there was so much talent. They had so much talent in WCW, and so many of them got underutilized. There were so many different pairings that we never got to see. I'm like, come on, let's make the most of this thing. And I intend to with this, Dom. We're gonna see some hellacious feuds this year.
Let me say too, it's pretty cool. I just transcribed. Oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't transcribe it, but I found an article. An interview that Eric Bischoff did talking about Latino wrestlers in WCW and utilizing the luchador and lucha libre. And so it's pretty intriguing already. We're touching upon that already on this first episode, right after Starrcade.
Yeah, let me say too, man, it was like when you look back at the Latino population in WCW in the 90s, like there were a lot of guys who were so talented. And according to Eric Bischoff, they said that Conan was basically doing most of the talking for them, helping them negotiate. So Conan had like kind of a strange amount of control over some of the other luchadors that were there. So it's I'm erasing that. So I'm looking at people's talents. I'm looking at people's possibilities, and I see so many of them with some of those talents. So Eddie Guerrero saying like standing up for Latinos. Let me just say, I'm almost doing like a tweener thing like Bret Hart in WWF 97, where it's like, hey, so this guy's a douchebag, but he's making some good points.
This guy's a cheater, but he's got some valid points.
That's the vibe I'm shooting for, Dom.
Well, can't wait. All right, gang. Hey, you know what? We'll see you next week. We are out of time.
All right. Thanks, guys.